Yes, and that's real. And that's it. And this story of Job is so interesting because I love it because it's so practical. It shows you the practicality of that's very relatable to us. Like you said, like the sickness, like, the children dying hit different for me now that I have a child, things like that. But also it gives you a veil behind the curtain of heaven, behind the spiritual line that's drawn. And we see what happens, like this conversation between God and the devil. And it's very interesting because it gives us an insight into how the spiritual world works in a lot of ways. One of the things that I loved that that I noticed in this story is that Satan had to come to God for permission to touch Job. The enemy can only touch us, children of God, when either we are in agreement with him and we allow him to by doing things like sinning or like inviting him into spaces in our lives, or unless God gives permission. And I just thought that was really interesting, like the spiritual superiority that the God and his children have.
Yeah, so how does that make you feel that God gave that permission to Satan to let him kind of do that stuff to Job? And that may sometimes be our lives where it's like we're not really doing anything crazy, but God is allowing bad stuff to happen to us. How does that make you feel personally?
So that makes me feel, honestly, my first thought is, Lord, please don't pick me. I'm
Right.
sorry.
That's
I'm really
funny.
sorry. I know that's like selfish and like, but I was just like, Lord, maybe I do want to be blameless to your side, but like I just don't really want to sign up for this type of story.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Honestly,
That's a lot.
yeah, it's real. But it also shows me that God like is like he'll not show off, but he'll like use us for his glory in different ways. And it's hard, but you just have to trust that it's for the good of him and for the good of the body. But that's really tough, honestly. And it shows you also like that the Lord is not just this genie in the sky who's trying to grant every wish that you have. Even though honestly the end of Job's story is redemptive, God blesses him like double with everything that was taken. But God is not just a genie in the sky. Like part of the Christian walk is going to be suffering, and it's not always going to be like you said, because like, oh, I'm just sinning, or I'm wilding, or I'm whatever. Like that's just going to be part of your walk, and it's God ordained.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we have to address the reality of that is really hard. It's really hard to accept. It's one thing when you're like, my trials that God is bringing me through was like, oh man, I gotta, um, uh, yeah, like somebody at my job is annoying me, but
Right.
I just gotta keep pushing through versus like, I had this family member die, or multiple family members die, or I lost everything. Like, I'm on the streets or whatever. And not even to
Yeah.
minimize, like, you know, office stuff. I think our trials always feel tough. And so it's easy. I feel like I'm experiencing that right now. It's easy to be like, yes, I believe this, that through our like suffering, God grows us. What's that James verse?
Yeah, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kind. You know the
Yes,
testing of your faith develops perseverance.
yes, love that for a time in my
Right.
life when everything's very cushy and fun. But yeah, when it comes to trials, you're like, okay, do I really actually believe it? Now it's really time. I feel like I've been in a time in my life recently where I'm just like, things are really tough. And now it's time to actually prove if I really do believe in this because I'm about to be out. Like, I quit. Like,
I
I'm
quit.
done.
I honestly quit.
Like,
I
I'm
just
finished.
can't.
It's good for me. But it's
Yeah.
just like, no, like, this is this is where you put your money where your mouth is. Like,
Yeah.
and it's so crazy though because God does really use that, and I feel like the more that you experience, like you fully, you when you're in those trials and you fully give yourself over to God, to his comfort, to his guidance, you see the full scope of everything that's going on, and it makes it easier to enter into other trials because you know how God provides and how he comes through and how he uses it. um but yeah, it is as all well and good until like somebody you love dies or something, right?
Right. Exactly. Like it sounds real cute until you actually have to walk through it. Until you actually
Yeah.
have to face your emotional issue. What the
Yes,
heck? Sorry.
very
My baby
true.
is over there just turning up. But yeah, it's really real. I thought also it was interesting like how God is using human beings basically to flex. He's like, bet. Like, what's up? My servant Job, like, he's the realest and you know it. And so the Lord literally said, have you considered my servant Job? There's none like him on the earth. A blameless, upright man who fears God and turns from evil.